Coming up on Tech News today, Verizon's limited unlimited plans. AccuWeather shares location data even when you opt out. Medium wants you to pay with claps, and how the tech industry can learn from the Google Manifesto fallout. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1837, recorded Tuesday, August 22nd, 2017. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life, and that's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. It lets you apply simply and understand the entire mortgage process fully so you can be confident that you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/TNT.
Hello. Welcome to Tech News Today. We're glad you're here with us. The three of us, the two of us and you, that's three. I mean, maybe there's more than one of you out there, but we're just talking to you. We're going to talk about tech news and what happened today. I'm Megan Maroney.
I'm Jason Howell. There's actually five of us because Burke is also here.
True.
Occasionally giving thumbs up and words on a card. And then Kevin is also here. So we're a tight-knit group. We're a family, all of us. See?
We are.
Let's be a family and talk about Verizon like normal families do.
Yes, but you out there, we'd like you not to talk while we're talking.
Yes.
It's enough.
Be kind, all right? Listen up. We all know by now, contrary to logic, that unlimited rarely truly means no limits. Case in point is Verizon's announcement that those currently on unlimited plans will have three different types of unlimited to choose from. One of those is a business plan, by the way, so we won't talk much about that, but each carrying their own unique limits. Not only do unlimited customers have to choose one of these plans, they have a day's notice to do so. The limits majorly target video streaming quality, something that actually was not limited prior to these new plans. Even those on grandfathered unlimited plans will see limits on video streaming, and that has some subscribers kind of mad because, you know, they've got these plans, they've had them for a long time, they didn't carry these limits, and now suddenly pretty much phones across the board are being limited to 720p video streaming. And then based on some of these other plans, you know, there's limits to data tethering. There's also limits to speed if you get over a certain point, or basically, I think the speed limits are limited to the idea that if there's significant, by Verizon's definition, network congestion, then on some plans, no matter what, if that happens, you're going to get throttled. And on other plans, after you've passed a certain transfer limit, then you get throttled.
So it's not really a cap, but it is.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's basically unlimited in the way that we've all gotten used to thinking about unlimited now. Unlimited actually used to mean like, hey, you can have as much as you like. You can go ahead, throw around that data, throw it around. It doesn't matter. But now they're really clamping down on that. And I mean, Verizon's not the only ones doing this. T-Mobile also has something very similar to this, which they started, I think, with Binge On last year. And, I don't know if everybody's gotten used to that or whatever, but saw that as a signal of kind of being a little hesitant about the idea that net neutrality is kind of being closer and closer to the edge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have unlimited on Sprint, but and it's unlimited in everything except that I can't. It's not unlimited mobile hotspot, so tethering.
Okay,
that's the limit. I can do it, but then only for a certain amount of time. That's how I reach the limit. But yeah, this is a bummer for Verizon because for Verizon customers, it's not a bummer for Verizon.
They're still.
Although they say it's better for you because then the network works better for everyone.
Right.
But yeah, it costs more. And, if you like streaming 4K video on your phone or tablet, you won't be able to do that anymore.
Well, I guess that's the question, right? Like Verizon is basically saying, We have network issues. No one really knows whether they do or not, but the network congestion, let's say. And what is the best way to ramp down on this, to improve the network for everyone? Cut down on the quality of video streaming is one of those aspects. But when I think about like a 5-inch screen, like on one hand, I'm like, okay, well, do my eyes actually see the difference between 4K video or 1080p video versus 720p video on a 5-inch screen? I'm guessing they probably don't. It's pretty minimal. So on one hand, I get it. I get why Verizon is targeting this. On the other hand, it ends up being one of those situations where you wonder where that leads to next. If they're limiting on video now, or limiting on speeds, let's say, for everyone, is there a point to which Verizon says, but we have made these relationships with this particular company, and we're going to go ahead and let their video be 1080p. Isn't that nice of us to do? And that's when you start really kind of intruding on the idea of net neutrality, which just kind of seems to be withering away at this point anyways.
I mean, and it does go exactly against what Verizon said in February. They said, we deliver whatever the content provider gives us. We don't manipulate the data. And that's just not true anymore.
Yeah, they're all moving in this direction. Like you said, Sprint isn't, but as I was reading through The Verge, they seem to feel, the Verge article on this, they seem to feel that this might be a green light for Sprint to consider as well because, hey, everybody else is doing it.
Right, yeah, that's how they work.
But it could also be a competitive advantage, though, so there's that other side, too.
True. The popular iPhone weather app AccuWeather is sending location information to a data monetization firm, even when you tell the app not to track you. Security researcher Will Strafach discovered the behavior, and Zack Whittaker from ZDNET confirmed that AccuWeather is sending specific geodata to a third-party company called RevealMobile. The app transmits this information even when you choose don't allow at the prompt that asks if you want to allow AccuWeather to access your location when you are not using the app. The AccuWeather terms of service says nothing about using your location for ads, and we like to assume that they're, when we give a weather app our location, they're going to use it to give the weather wherever we are and not send us our information to ad companies. Also, smartphone permissions are pretty sacred, I would say, and sending Wi-Fi router names and unique MAC addresses, which is what they're doing, when specifically told not to, is a big violation of trust. RevealMobile responded to this. They said their business is built around turning anonymized mobile location data into audience segments. So they say that they're anonymizing the data. It's like they're just looking for coffee drinkers or people who shop a lot, and they don't have this specific name. But this is a lot of people have been deleting the app. I don't have the app, but I wouldn't use it now.
Yeah, I've definitely used AccuWeather. AccuWeather is probably one of the more well-known weather apps on Android and iOS. Burke is not a fan. He's big time thumbs downing it over there. If he had a chainsaw arm, he'd be chainsaw arm downing it, I'm imagining. RevealMobile actually replied to Will on his Medium post about this. And they said, specifically, we don't attempt to reverse engineer devices' location if the user opts out of location sharing. However, they also say, but in looking at our current SDK's behavior, we can see how that could be misconstrued. It's confusing. We're now releasing a new version of our SDK today that stops sending any data that could be used to determine location when someone opts out of location sharing. And this isn't the first time that this has happened. There was InMobi is another mobile ad company that very recently, I think it was just last year, got into trouble with the FTC for doing this exact thing. And they had to agree to terms that say that anytime their service is being used, it's an explicit permission. It has to be opt-in order to share any of this information. So I'm guessing that's probably going to happen here too.
And I think the FTC has gotten involved also in the past when it doesn't make sense why an app is asking for this information. There was the Android flashlight app. This was 2013. The FTC got involved with that because it was deceiving customers. Like, why would a flashlight app need to know where I am? And, we've gotten sort of used to the fact that maybe this service that will go through our email and roll up all of our, advertising, it's a great service and it's free. And, we as consumers should be smart consumers and assume, well, if it's free, what are they doing? But I think
But it's free.
But I think these services are moving more and more into the mainstream. And I do think that the FTC will get involved more when things aren't as obvious as they need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Medium has been working towards new ways for publishers on its platform to get paid. One new method takes the idea of likes and turns them into claps that basically act as a tipping mechanism. An icon showing hands clapping appears at the bottom of the screen, at least when you're looking at it on mobile when you're viewing an article. And depending on just how much a reader likes that article, they can tap to clap however many times they wish. Like, yeah, that was all right, tap once to clap, or that was amazing, and they keep tapping, kind of like in Periscope where it sends up the hearts and everything. However many times they want. Those claps will determine which authors are liked more than others by a particular user, and that user's subscriber fee, which right now is around, I think it's $5 for a subscriber fee, will be divvied up according to those ratios. Their math on the back end will, I guess, add up all the people you've clapped, the amount of times you clapped for each, and then divvy up the amount of money proportionate to that.
So it's $5 a month. So if you go around clapping on everyone 1,000 times, like you might give like half a penny or something. I don't.
Well, I think probably what it ends up being is how many articles are you reading? If you're reading 5,000 articles and each of them you're clapping 1,000,000 times, yeah, it would probably be that. But if you only read 10, it doesn't matter how many times you clap. It's still just the proportion of how that's split up amongst those 10 articles. Still probably doesn't add up to a whole lot. I'm wondering how much this actually monetizes things for the authors.
Yeah, I mean, it's small now, so probably not much right now. I mean, I believe that people should be paid, writers should be paid to write. They should be paid for their content. But I also like the advertising model. Obviously, we work in an advertising model. An advertising model makes things a little more fair if everyone has to pay. I know it's $5 a month, but you could, if you're on a fixed income, $5 a month might be something that you could spend on food or something else. So I do like the idea that it's not a digital divide in terms of content, that you could either watch advertising or you can, pay your subscription. I am a Medium member. I pay my $5 a month. And it should be noted that you can, if you're a Medium writer, you can write behind the paywall or not behind the paywall. You don't have to. You can still publish things that people don't have to be Medium members to write. But it's interesting too, because Medium's big thing says the Medium is a place where the best ideas rise to the top. This is what Ev Williams says, not the ones that simply get the most clicks, but it's not the most clicks, but the most claps.
Yeah, well, maybe the best ones still do rise to the top, but on the back end, how they're getting paid for it is something separate, But I don't. So as a subscriber, you see things that people who are non-subscribers do not see. What I wonder about is kind of what you're talking about. Those who don't pay see less. So what about visibility? What about the ability for an article, a Medium article, to go broader? I think as an author, you kind of have to make the determination, like, does this have the ability to reach a much wider audience? Is it going to go viral if I put it out publicly, or should I monetize it and expect the fact that less people are going to read it, but I might make a little bit of money? I wonder how that value proposition works out.
Well, I mean, I've written a few things on Medium. Like, I would like to have time to write more things. I wouldn't put it behind the paywall.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, because at this point, it's not about money for me writing on Medium. It's about feeling like I have something to say and wanting people to read it. So yeah, I don't know. I think then it becomes like, oh, am I writing something that will specifically appeal to people that have an extra $5 a month to pay and
to clap?
Right. So then, do we want that? Do we want people like writing for that specific reason, like writing just towards rich people or people with a lot of disposable income? That's not journalism to me.
Yeah.
Cloud backup service CrashPlan announced that it's shutting down its home subscription service. The company says they plan to focus on small businesses and enterprise customers instead. CrashPlan, like Backblaze and Carbonite, which is a sponsor, Carbonite is a sponsor, let you install an app and forget about backup. That way, even if you were backing up to a hard drive, your data would be safe if your house burned down and you want your data to be safe. Now, if you were using CrashPlan, you'll have to look elsewhere. As of August 22nd, CrashPlan will no longer accept new application home subscriptions nor renewals of existing subscriptions. The consumer service will fully shut down on October 23rd, 2018. So you will have some time, but after that, you will have to move your digital stuff elsewhere. So you can still do CrashPlan for small business, which only costs $10 a month. And that's the same as, that's the same as what I pay for iCloud, $9.99 a month. and Backblaze is $5 a month, and Carbonite will give you a 50% discount, but I'm not sure how much that is off. That's 50% off, probably 10. They're probably equal, like $5 a month.
They offer different. Carbonite, by the way, is a sponsor on the Twit Network. They offer definitely different rate plans and definitely very different kind of support around the number of devices that you can bring onto the plans and all that kind of stuff. So you definitely are encouraged to shop around. I used to use CrashPlan, signed up for it very casually a couple of years ago to like test it out and had it running for a while. And then I think I changed my computer configuration and forgot to set it up again, and it's lied dormant, and I continue to get emails from them as kind of a reminder of how bad I am at doing cloud backup on my machines. I think this is kind of a wake up reminder for me to get back on it, because if you're not backing up to the cloud, in some ways you're not really backing up. If you have a catastrophe at home, it doesn't matter that you have a hard drive out in the garage that has a backup of the drive that's in the den. They're both going up in flames, and you don't have anything at the end of the day. So these are really a good idea to make sure that your data is offsite, but it's also a really good reminder of the fact that when you put all of your eggs in a certain basket, that basket, what is the analogy? That basket might get tipped over, and all those eggs are going to fall out, and you're going to have to pick them up again and put them in another basket. See what I did there? So yeah, so think about that. Burke would like to say, oh, this is a long one. Home customers are the average Joe. Oh, you're flipping. I can't read it. Home customers, the average Joe, are a pain in the butt compared to businesses. You mean for the services or okay? Well, that would possibly make sense, you know, as far as CrashPlan getting rid of these services for home. They probably make just a heck of a lot more money also off of the business plans, just with the sheer amount of information that can be stored there and the value of that information. So check it out. Maybe this is a reminder to get your cloud backup going. Up next, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Google Manifesto that from a few weeks ago, but kind of how the tech industry can move beyond and maybe learn some lessons from that about women in technology and a whole lot of other issues. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. They are the sponsor of this episode. The mortgage experience, if you've dipped your toes in it, you know that it hasn't been keeping up with the times. It's dated. It needed a client-focused technological revolution, and that's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage gives you the confidence that you need when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. This is the biggest purchase you're ever going to make. You need that confidence, and that's what Rocket Mortgage is all about. It's simple. It allows you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. It's convenient. Their trusted partners allow you to share your financial information with Rocket Mortgage at the touch of a button. It's also powerful. Whether you're looking to buy your first home or even your 10th, Rocket Mortgage is able to perform thousands of calculations in seconds. Based on your income, your assets, your credit, all those data points, Rocket Mortgage can analyze all the home loan options for which you qualify and then find the one that's just right for you. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/TNT. That's rocketmortgage.com/TNT. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support.
Now, before the tragic events in Charlottesville a little over a week ago, we were somewhat obsessed with another ideological controversy over the memo written by Google engineer James Damore. Now, as I said on the show, I am sort of sick of talking about this personal memo, but I got a Twitter DM from a viewer who wrote, Google needs to do more to appeal to a diverse workforce. I think that the Damore thing should be a catalyst to focus on how the tech industry can improve instead of a public drama about what's wrong with the way people think. I get that you're tired of having to talk about it, but I hope you'll talk about ways that they can make it a place where my daughters would want to work. So today we're talking to Sarah Zhang, senior writer at The Verge and author of the book, The Internet of Garbage. Welcome back to the show, Sarah.
Hi.
So you and Verge science reporter Rachel Becker wrote a piece called Science Doesn't Explain Tech's Diversity Problem, History Does. Now you write that something about American math and science education has changed in the last few decades, which has resulted in more women in STEM than ever before, except in tech, where female representation is decreasing instead of increasing. What are some of the biggest reasons that you think this is happening?
Well, I think that it has to be a toxic culture. I think that there's a pretty damning graph in our article that shows female representation increasing in all of the other STEM disciplines. You see more women going into chemistry as a major. The majority of biology majors are women. More women in math, more women in the physical sciences. It's, ticking up and up and up. And then you have computer science. And for some reason, computer science just took a huge downturn in the representation of women. And it's not entirely clear why that's the case. And you also see women leading away once they hit sort of that 10-year mark in the tech industry. And there's attrition in other fields for sure. It's just sort of a consequence of America not providing enough support to parents, while our culture still expects women to take on the majority of the work in child rearing. But it's really pronounced in tech. In tech, it's a lot worse for whatever reason. And I think the clearest explanation is actually just that the culture is really toxic. That's the hypothesis that makes the most sense with what we're seeing out of the industry and what makes the most sense with the numbers.
When I was looking at that first graph that you were talking about, where it shows that dramatic drop of women in the field, going after those degrees, the computer and information sciences degrees, I couldn't help but be drawn to like the point at which it drops so significantly, right around 2000, 2001. I mean, any ideas? I mean, obviously, when you're talking about the tech industry in Silicon Valley, that's when the bubble burst. It really seemed like. How could that have had a role in this?
I mean, every time you sort of see that that graph dip, you sort of do get sort of like a cultural landmark in which sort of the myths around computers are shifting and changing and solidifying around the idea of like young boy genius hackers and college dropouts, but they're all men. They're all men. They're all socially awkward. They don't really care about people. A lot of the time, they're portrayed as like straight up misogynistic. They're portrayed as they're kind of loners, or they smell bad. They're like social outcasts, and you never really see these myths grow up around like women hackers or like strange, weird women who are devoting all of their time on machines and then they strike it really rich. Like it's always, for some reason, men. And like, for instance, you see sort of in the late 60s, employers are shifting to using psychometric profiles to hire engineers just because it's like they're trying to build out a huge workforce and they don't really have much of an option. But the psychometric tests are built around personality profiles that are like, oh, engineers are very neurotic. They they're loners. They're not attracted to sort of social situations. They are more interested in things than people. And there's like a lot of coded language in these profiles around like masculinity and around ways in which it's inappropriate for women to behave. And as sort of these cultural myths collide with actual hiring practices in the industry and what is expected of computer programmers, you see that dip over and over and over again, where you see young girls getting the message that it's not okay to like computers, basically.
And it's a self-perpetuating problem, right, too? I mean, can you talk a little bit about, we know that we need to see someone in a position before we can often like see ourselves in that position. But talk about a little bit about the attrition and how that creates more of a problem.
Yeah, so I mean, well, first, if you see an industry where there isn't anyone who looks like you, would it really occur to you to go into that industry? I mean, for some people, they see that as a challenge, but that's and they go for it, but that's a kind of rare individual. Usually you look to a role model and you follow your role model's path to success. But if all these women are dropping out after the 10-year mark for reasons that are usually have to do with unfairness, like they're not promoted fast enough, or they're just tired of dealing with constant sexual harassment, or just a hostile workplace. When you don't have senior women and you don't have women in these executive suites, you don't have women sitting on boards, you look from the outside of an industry as a very young person, you go, oh, there isn't really a path for me here, or, oh, there's no one to mentor me. And you don't go in the first place, or when you do go in, it turns out, yes, there is no one to mentor you. There is no one to push you upwards, or to pull you up the ladder. And that just turns into this vicious cycle.
So I think another issue with the memo was a lot of the things that he wrote, touched a nerve with a lot of people, and they were backed up with Wikipedia links. But this is something that's been happening. You say every couple of years we hear the same controversy come up again and again. And what is the proven science about the difference between women's brains and men's brains?
Well, there kind of isn't a lot. There's all these studies that say that there's sex differences, but if you look at the huge mass of studies, a lot of those differences turn out to be quite negligible, or they can't be replicated, or for instance, there's this statistic that high achievers on the math part of the SAT, boys outnumber girls 13-1. And that was the case decades ago. And then today, boys outnumber girls about 3-1 on that, on scoring high on the math portion of the SAT. So that just fluctuates, and you can't really take that as a quantifiable sex difference just because you've got that huge difference just in a few decades. And when you look at the whole mass, it's oh yeah, so men masturbate more. That's known for certain. Men have more physical strength, and that's also known for certain. But the other sex differences, you can cherry pick the data and go either way, really. You can tell a just so story about tech using cherry picked studies. You can tell that just so story to explain away why it is that men dominate the tech field. But you could have also cherry picked those stories to tell a just so story about why men never go into technology and the technology field is dominated by women, and why don't men code? It's the science doesn't really explain it.
Yeah, it's almost like statistics, right? You can always find a statistic to support your thesis or whatever. What I'm wondering is, all right, so very, very much so, it seems like by and large, the technology industry, so the industry, when people have already graduated, moved into the industry, is repelling women, right? You say 41% of women are leaving tech companies after 10 years. That's compared to 17% men. What about girls' interest in these fields? We're talking high school, graduating from high school. Is there a shift happening there as well before they even get close to the industry that can repel them?
Oh yeah, they tend not to even pick computer science as a major. They aren't even really interested in it. Even if their math scores are just as good as the boys, even if they're just as competent as all the young men around them who are deciding that computers are for them.
Yeah.
And so are they really using those math skills to get into different fields besides technology? I mean, what of the last 10 news stories you might read on any tech publication about how women are treated in tech would make a woman, except for a woman like you were talking about that really wants that challenge? What would make a teenage girl say, that sounds like a great job to have. I'd love to be Susan Fowler.
Well, I think there's all these initiatives out there to get girls into coding, and maybe those things are playing out. I actually don't know any teenage girls right now, so I can't really tell you what the teens are thinking. I imagine though that I don't think it's so much when you were a teenager, were you reading the New York Times and going, oh, wow, this sexual harassment problem at this company really? No, I think it's really more representation in the media. If I were a teenager and I saw The Social Network, I would not think computer programming was for me. Mm-hmm. And it is how programming is represented in our culture and in pop culture. And pop culture reflects a lot of the biases in the industry, and the industry reflects those biases back. It's just this feedback loop that can't seem to be broken.
So is it a pop culture problem, or is it a tech industry problem? Because I have a 14-year-old at home, and she's starting a freshman year of high school. She's taking honors algebra 2 and honors geometry at the same time. She loves math, but then at the same time she loves Instagram too. And all these images of women are coming at her. They're not doing math equations; they're doing this. So
they're duck facing. Yes.
So do you think is it a tech industry problem? Or do you think that it is a media, general culture problem?
I mean, it's like clearly both, right? Like when you're in college or getting ready to pick your major or whatever, you're not like, you can like all of the celebrities that you like, and you're still looking forward to your future and thinking about who you want to be. And you can envision yourself in certain positions, and you can't envision yourself in others. And I think it's going to be both. Is that like, what were your dreams growing up as a child, right? Like who did you see in these movies? Who did you read about in these books? But also now you're like about to pick your major. Who are you seeing in the magazines? Who are you seeing in these companies, represented in these companies? Who's in power? If all of these women are dropping out after 10 years of experience, all you're going to see is men in power. And that's like, that might send a certain kind of message.
Because I really want to blame someone or some things. You have another statistic that says in 1985, women represented 37% of computer science bachelor's degrees, where it's now 20%. I mean, you could argue that in 1985 we had our diet of media was a lot less. It was a lot smaller than it is. I mean, just from there on, there was more TV, more movies, more DVDs, social media. Can we blame the media?
I mean, maybe we could. I mean, it's also like you have to consider that at this point, employers were so starting in late 60s, early 70s, employers were aggressively using psychometric testing to hire software programmers, and those psychometric tests were extremely biased on the sex side. So it could have just been a result of that, is that all of these women were graduating from college and realizing that they couldn't get a job because the hiring process was just stacked against them, period. And then like a bunch of women made a rational choice not to go into this field to begin with. Yeah. Who knows?
Imagine that, women making rational choices. Sarah, thank you so much. It is a pleasure, as always. Sarah Jeong is a senior writer at The Verge. She can be found at Sarah Jeong on Twitter. I highly recommend following her. She has great tech stories, goes to all the important tech cases, and is just pretty funny when you need it. And I think we all need a little more hilarity on Twitter these days. Thanks so much, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
Take
Appreciate
care.
It. All right, feedback time. Richard wrote in about our discussion last week regarding Cloudflare's decision to drop white supremacist site The Daily Stormer. He writes, Cloudflare did not take down The Daily Stormer. All he did was remove protection of their site from malicious activity. Daily Stormer deserves what they get when they are evil. That said, I'm glad that they no longer are protected from their own statements. And yeah, I think we've... At least I know that we set up the story to say that what Cloudflare offered in that case was DDoS protection, and they removed that, which is ultimately, it basically placed a big target on the Daily Stormer for not having that protection in place. So it's a good reminder, though.
Yeah, I don't think
it's easy to misconstrue what Cloudflare's involvement was with the Daily Stormer.
Right. I mean, they sort of de facto took them down, like in a way, I mean, not literally. And we followed up with a discussion of the CEO of Cloudflare, who said, no one should have this power. Right. No one should have this power to take down a website. So, I mean, they didn't take it down, but it's a weird position that we are in. But, they, like Google and GoDaddy and all the rest, they're public companies, and they get to make those choices. But it sure is, in the last few weeks, we've really realized, like, where they're drawing those lines. And the fact that they get to draw them is problematic.
Yeah, could be.
TNT's fan of the day is Charlie Hoover, who said, for the record, I'm listening to the latest Tech News Today podcast with the one and only Aunt Pruitt as a guest. And then he attached this GIF of 2 drones carrying a guy through the sky. We can only hope that guy is Charlie listening to TNT.
I'm guessing it's probably not, but I like thinking that it is. Or is that even real? That's like an insane. Maybe that's not 2 drones. That's a drone, a really, really big drone. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore.
I'm pretty sure that's photoshopped, wouldn't you say?
I don't know. I like to think it's real.
Last name is Hoover, which is close to hover.
Oh.
Oh. Then I think you pointed out something that doesn't prove anything, but that's okay. Close though. Well, you got the rest.
If you, we want you to, we want to see your greatest Photoshop art that has you pretending to watch or listen to TNT.
It's real, Megan. It's real.
Okay. You can post that Photoshop art on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. And use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT. And if you really do know how to attach any sort of bed to a drone that you can carry around, whether it be a hammock or an actual bed, I want to see it.
Send it in, please, even if it's photoshopped. It's okay. In our continuing coverage of robots that do the darndest and awesomest things, we have this born out of a shortage of sign language interpreters in Belgium. Project Aslan, short for Antwerp's Sign Language Actuating Node, is a 3D printed robotic hand that can translate written text as well as spoken language into sign language on the fly. If it encounters a word that it doesn't know, it spells it out. And the hand itself can be found and printed out on 3D Hubs, which is an online printing service platform. They say it's affordable. I couldn't really find the cost on it, but it's listening and it's doing sign language on the fly. It's a robot hand.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
It's only a prototype right now, so maybe that's why that's their working prototype. 25 3D printed parts. And I didn't know this. 70 million people claim sign language as their primary language.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And it's not after the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Aslan, because he was a talking lion, so that didn't really, and he didn't know sign language at all.
Well, he needed a robot hand, obviously.
Obviously. If there were more robots in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I would have read the whole series.
You either needed a robot hand or a chainsaw arm. And we would, and those of us here doing this show would be very happy, including Burke. TNT records live every half the time. Burke is just represented by a laptop. I kind of love that about that segment. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. Be part of the show by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a short voicemail if you like, 260-TNT-SHOW, and find us on Twitter at TechNewsTodayTV.
You can find all the ways to subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT and stop by twit.tv. We have a lot of shows, not just this one, and we want you to subscribe to all the ones that you are interested in. Of course, iOS Today, which I host, and also All About Android, which Jason hosts. And don't forget to subscribe to the new screensavers, and that way you can join me on the 10-week digital cleanse. We're already on week 3, #digital cleanse, but you can watch all of them. They're very short. And you just feel the toxins coming out all over the place. And thank you for everyone who's already tweeted at me your screenshots at Megan Maroney.
Oh, like this? Like that? Was that?
No, that
were
was
you, were you
me.
digitally cleansing right there?
No, but Trenton Moody did tweet at me his... I like it when people actually show the video of them cleansing, like turning off the notifications, deleting their Facebook app.
And meditating. I'm at Jason Howell. That's how I meditate, by the way. It's really awkward. I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter. Thanks to our technical director, Kevin. Thanks to Burke for helping out in the studio. Thanks to Josh, because he edits on Tuesdays, right? Yeah, I got it. I got it this time, Josh. You're welcome. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.